right, let's pray. Dear God, thank you so much for this opportunity that we have of being here, of having fun and talking. Bless this conversation. We're grateful that it was a blessing last time, and we just pray that we may be blessed and be able to bless others in our combo. Bless the food about to eat, also let it nourish our bodies, and we ask this in the name of Jesus. Amen.
Amen. Oh, there comes the food too. All right, look at that timing, bro.
Awesome. I started. All right. Thank you.
The pineapple looks legit. That's legit.
Pineapple, bro. Let's go.
Was that your idea?
Pineapple.
Yeah. I've been doing that for years.
Man, you just went straight Hawaiian on us right now.
Yeah, man, absolutely.
Pineapple.
I know, you should have got provolone.
Thank you.
See?
Yeah, I was thinking about that provolone cheese.
You messed up. Thank you very
Then
much.
I went with just American.
And everything was good for you guys?
It looks
Great.
good.
Awesome.
It looks good. Thank you very much. Hopefully the wings are hot. You know what I'm saying? Last time I came. Should be hot. Should be good.
All right, here we go. Hey everyone, welcome back to
Let's go.
Crossroads. As you can see, we are here. Look at those plates, man. They
our food
colored
just
up.
came
That looks
out.
good, man. That was good.
Just came out.
Super excited. We already prayed. Those of you catching on to see if we're gonna be holy or not. But
Yeah, you gotta.
don't mind this. You can hear the ASMR.
The little crunch. The little crunch.
But we're excited to be here. Where are we at? What are we doing?
We're at Hooligans in Palm Coast. It's a like a sports bar. There's about 3 of them around here. It's a good spot though. It's a good spot. Very friendly staff, and we're excited to be out here, man. Just talking a little bit more. You know, got a lot of good feedback about last week's episode or a few weeks ago. Just kind of talking about just some practical stuff, man. So we're excited to kind of talk a little bit more. And this episode's obviously a little bit different because, you know, for those of you that are watching,
Right.
it'll probably be more of a benefit than those of you that are listening because we got a bunch of wings and whatnot in front of us. But yeah, we're excited to be here again, man. Talking together and spending some time, you know, hanging out.
Absolutely.
I just want to show Chantal that I am eating a veggie patty, so not wings. Just you see that, but yo, so great conversation last week.
Yeah.
Or last time we had it, right? Just kind of recapping. Powerful talk, you know, just being real in church. I think it was just a lot of it was just kind of centered. I'm trying to find that one word that encapsulates everything, but just like that, the messaging.
The messaging
right?
of it, yeah.
Obviously, we believe everything that we believe and stand for, but how we portray that, how we show that, matters a lot, right?
It's funny because I was talking to somebody this week about her church. They're not of the Adventist persuasion, and she was saying how like their services are catered around reaching 20 to 30 unchurched. Like that's the demographic they're targeting.
Right.
And I'm like, what a great like mission
Like
in a way. Like, you know, to actually reach people that aren't necessarily the people that you normally would see in church. And not that, I mean, the biggest thing that I kind of want, and I kind of feel almost like it's a mission in a way, is to try to expand the traditional just coming to church, sitting there, getting the sermon and leaving.
Yeah.
And then what are we doing to like change people, to help to reach people, you know what I'm saying?
I think, and now I know why, you know, the connection here with hooligans, because I think a lot of times we don't know, maybe as leaders or as a church, we don't have a clear, or maybe we do have a clear audience, right? So most of our services are catered to people in the church. And, you know, we do things that we're used to, right? How we dress, how we, you know, the songs we choose, every aspect of it, even how we run our ministries and the events we do are all things that cater to us, right? My question is, you know, you think of hooligans, and if you don't know what hooligans are, it's like, what do you would say, Buffalo Wild Wings type of thing?
Yeah.
A place, a lot of TVs, a lot of wings. What's the target audience, you think, is for hooligans?
Sports fans. Sports
right?
fans.
So have it clear, right? So they're not going to come out and probably they might have pasta, but they're not here to do we're not catering to the Italian family that's looking for some pasta. You can go to Olive Garden or something else, right? So when you come here, you know what you're expecting.
You come here for a reason.
Right.
Right?
And I think that kind of goes with maybe the connection that we can do today is like, obviously with the messaging, but I think we miss out in understanding who our target audience is. Or not that we, you know, maybe we're purposely not choosing the audience that God wants us to choose.
I think that's what it is.
And so we know what we're doing, right? It's just not the right, you know. What do you think,
Like
Sharon?
when you, yeah, go ahead, man.
No, I think, I think maybe subconsciously or consciously, we are very aware of who we're or who we're messaging, of who we're trying to reach out to. I think a lot of times you get very comfortable with people that look like you or sound like you or think like you do. It's very uncomfortable to be around people that have different ideology, right? And so you're not as comfortable inviting those people that are different than you to a place where you probably feel the most comfortable. You wanna kind of keep it insular.
Right.
You know, and sometimes sometimes we don't even think about that. It's just some of the words that we use or some of the things that we do automatically turn other people off, and we don't even realize that we're doing it.
Right.
Other times we're very intentional about it.
Right.
No, you know, that person is not dressing the way that we all dress. So let's kind of make sure that we stay to ourselves, and we're not going to go and have a conversation with them, and you know, we're not going to outwardly say, don't come back here, but our actions are telling them, don't come back here.
I think you almost want to break it down to like, why do we go to church, right? Why is the church there? You know what I mean? Like, what is the reason that we go every week to church? Is it, you know, and people might have the different reasons. It's to fellowship, you know, corporate worship is really nice. But some people, they go because it's like, I kind of feel like I have to go. Like, if I don't go to church, they're going to feel guilty that they didn't go to church.
Right.
But like, what's the point of the church if not to reach people that need to hear what God wants them to hear? But I think sometimes we lose that. We go, it's just kind of something we've always done or whatever, and then that's where you kind of lose your target audience. Right. When you're kind of just, it's the same people talking about the same things amongst themselves. Right. Without. I think the mission statement needs to be reformed a little bit.
Sometimes church can end up being pat yourself on the back ceremony. Like look how good we're doing. Like we've done this and we've done that. Pat ourselves on the back. Right. When it's really supposed to be we haven't done anything. Yeah. Like it's not us that have accomplished anything. Yeah. It's God that has done something for us. Right. And we're so thankful and excited about it that we want other people to realize that, hey, even though you may not feel like you've accomplished anything, there's somebody that has done it for you. Yeah. That's what it should be.
Yeah.
No, that's good.
For you, it's a little bit different because you work in the ministry, right? Right. And I think having your perspective is really cool.
No, but it is. I see it 100% because Sher was there yesterday when I was speaking on that. And Pastor Bob, we always talk about Pastor Bob and the Picture of God, Arise Institute talks about that. If you don't know, Light Bearers, check them out. Elton will put a link on the description. But they talk a lot about understanding who the God of the Bible is, right? And I think if you don't understand that, which is kind of what I was trying to break down to the church yesterday, was like, depending on your view of God, it will depend how you interact with the world. So if you have a God that is critical or you have to please with your work, or that you're afraid of, right? You really don't have time to care for others and love on others and be kind to others because you're so inwardly focused with being okay with God, right? Yeah. Whereas the Bible paints a picture of a God that has done everything for us to be able to be right with Him, and we can live in that freedom, in that peace, in that joy that then allows us then to go out and do that. So I think it's a mix, and we talked about a lot that last week, right? Maybe some people haven't tried the pill or actually embraced or seen or what salvation is, right? They don't have that peace, they don't have that joy, it hasn't sunk in. And I think another part is if we're not clear, and I saw this with COVID a lot, going even with our church, was in the midst of so much uncertainty and like change and things that is always changing in culture and the politics and this and that liberal. It's comforting for a lot of church people to have one thing that they know is the same every week, right? Right. So when they go in and you change random stuff like people, greenery.
When you change something, man, as a pastor,
and that's what I'm saying. Like you change that, and for them it's like, and I'm like, why is it so big? It's because everything around them is not certain, and they're like, give me one thing that I know is good wherever I go. If that's the idea, right? Wherever you go, whatever Adventist church you go to, or Christian church, right? You walk into a Catholic church, you're in a Catholic church. You walk into an Adventist church, I want to know because they're dressed this way. They're doing the hymns. They're doing Sabbath school, right? So there is a nice thing of it, right? Where you're like, I feel at home, but at what cost? But
right, that's what I'm saying. Is the church there for you?
Exactly.
Is the church there to make me feel comfortable?
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like that's the thing. Like, and then you have so many people in a church with different ideas of what is good and what they want to do. You lose sight, like, why are we even doing this? Is it because I like song service? Is it because I like the mission moment? Is it because I need all these extra things? When you have someone coming into the church, I've had people come into our church and be like, yo, why are there so many things before the sermon? Yeah. Like, there's like so many things. Like, we're here for 2 or 3 hours, and they're there for the message, right? They're there for the message. And like you said, we get comfortable with all these different things, but it's like it's almost self-serving in a way where you're like, I like this way, so if you change it, I'm going to make a big deal about it because it makes me feel comfortable. The church is not there to make you feel comfortable. Yeah. And I don't know. That's just my opinion.
It's interesting because you look at biblically, like obviously we're thinking post Jesus coming, right, and starting the new church, right? Obviously, he went to the synagogue and they had their procession. We could probably go now to still a synagogue, and it's similar to what they did, right? Which is, we're reading. You look at different denominations that do it differently, different religions, but how the early churches were, it was just meeting at people's homes, and Acts talks about it, right? Breaking bread together, meeting up together, meeting each other's needs. So they shared everything. They had everything in common. And then it just literally was very basic, just telling them the story of Jesus and what they knew about Jesus or what they heard about the disciples that you had walked with Jesus, and then living that out. And Christians were known for doing good deeds in the community, and even at times more than the Roman government would do for its own citizens, right? So now you come to a place where our church is very institutionalized. We got to figure out who we are. We have to have a creed of the beliefs and what we stand for and all that stuff. So it's just, I don't know, how do you navigate that change, right? Because obviously it's gotten a lot bigger than what it was at that point. But how do you keep maybe that core of what the church was supposed to be, or what it looked like that was so good at that time?
You said something very interesting. You said back then the church was known, or Christians were known for doing good deeds. What would you guys say Christians are generally? I'll kind of limit it to our culture, to the United States. What are Christians generally known for today? Like when we say this, the same thing.
I think the first thing people might think of is they're the ones that don't do these things, right? They're the ones that don't do. It's not love. They're not going to think, those are the ones that love everybody. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't think that's going to be top three. If someone says, "Hey, what is a Christian to you?" to a non-Christian, I don't think they're the ones that love everyone unconditionally. I don't think that's top three.
Right.
Which is like, sad. Then what are we doing, right?
So
that's crazy.
It feels like the answer, like you said, they don't do this, they don't do that, they won't do this, and they won't do that. There's a bunch of don'ts and won'ts. Who's going to sign up for that? Like who? Like if I interview for a job, and they tell me, all right, so here at this place of employment, we don't do this, we don't do this, we don't do this, we don't do this,
right?
We won't do this. I'm
tempted to ask the next person that walks by here if you could ask them a question, and ask them if they're a Christian. Maybe they say yes, no, whatever, and when you just say like, "What is your first thought when you think about a Christian?" I would love to know, just a random what they say, like, because that's the thing. Like we have to change the perception of what followers of Christ are who they are. You know what I'm saying? Like if you were to ask Jesus, like, what is the core message? It's got to be love, bro, and it's not. That's not the case.
And that's what he says.
I mean, it's literally.
That's literally what he came to do.
They'll know what you're my disciples. You're my followers.
About how you love,
and how you treat and love one another. Yeah.
When he came the first time to Earth, he came, and a lot of religious leaders, it was very similar. There was a lot of do's and don'ts, and he came to say, "That's not what it's about." Like, you one of the illustrations that you mentioned yesterday in your sermon was a story in Luke where there's a man at the synagogue. He's got a crippled hand, and so his hand is like withered. And all the Jesus is in the synagogue, and all these Pharisees are sitting there thinking, is he going to heal this man? Like, is he going to heal this man on a holy day?
Sabbath?
Is he going to do it? And Jesus is like reading the thoughts, and he's like, stretch your hand out. He heals the man, and then says, Is it lawful to do good on the Sabbath? Like,
and he knew what they were doing.
And they got upset, and something that hit me when you were going through that story, they completely missed the miracle. They completely missed the fact that there's a man that was walking around with his hand like this, that now has a hand like this. And they completely missed it. They completely missed it because they were so focused on, is he supposed to do that? Is he allowed to do that? Is that acceptable? It's crazy.
That's crazy. And that's what's we've been kind of journeying with the church over there on that idea of like how you can be so caught up in what you're used to, what you want to see, this is right, that's wrong, that you miss the whole miracle, right? So there's so many stories that they're there, and this person's like healed, right? And they're not even,
instead of celebrating,
they're like, okay, he got healed, whatever.
That's cool, but our tradition,
don't do it today. And it's like, bro, how, like, and it's so dumb how, so I definitely get that. I think, I've been thinking a lot too, at South Point, we have a big food pantry that feeds like 100 plus people every day, or twice, 2 days a week. A lot of families that get fed. And I was commending the leaders there, because obviously I'm just coming into that. They've been doing it, they're running it well, and a lot of people, non-Christians, non-Adventists, are there, blessed by it, and they're like, man, this is an amazing church. They start asking me, hey, you speak Spanish? You want to start Spanish? So it's a lot of, when they know how much you care, they're like, we want to know more about you guys. Like, you guys are giving food every week. You got volunteer. And so it got me thinking, a lot of times as a pastor, you come in and you're looking at like stains on the carpet, you're looking at paint patches, and you're like, all right, let's clean that up. And I'm there, I sat back up and I was like, man, and sometimes we want the facilities to look so perfect for what, right? Because we, obviously the curve appeal, I get that, but here people know who we are because we're meeting needs, and they're coming regardless of how the building looks, and it's not falling apart. But there's elements you're like, oh, I could clean, we could fix that up, but it's not even high on my priority to speak right now, because people are coming, right? Because they know that we're giving them food and they're being provided for, right? So it's interesting. I think that it's that focus. Sometimes we become, and even maybe very business minded too. Sure. So it's all
the church. The church is kind of a business,
right?
I think what I've been noticing lately with we have a like a Sabbath school class that we're doing kind of Bible studies, and it's an hour, and that hour is the fastest hour of my week. All of a sudden, it's like I look at my watch and I'm like, oh man, we're running out of time, and the Holy Spirit is working, and you're just like, man, listen, like we can't put this in a bottle right now. We got to keep going, and I feel like that small group format. Is what the church will look like in the future.
And it is what it was.
It's almost like we're returning back to the early church in that sense, because the interaction, I think, is where so much growth happens. When you say something from the pulpit, obviously not everyone in the church can say something, what they're thinking or the questions they might have in the moment. Whereas you're in a small group, and then you say something from Romans, and someone's like, hey, well, what does that even mean? Yeah. And then you guys can discuss it, and then it sparks more ideas. And that's where there's so much growth that's happening in those moments, though.
That's what disciples, imagine that, right, where the pastor gets up and speaks, shares a message, and that whole week you got everyone in that church that was there is in a group. So we get together, right, in our group, in our families, our spouses and families, and it's just us. And for that week, we're talking, okay, he spoke on loving your neighbor. What does that look like, OG?
Right. And you can actually respond.
And you're literally, I got questions, man. I don't know how can I love someone that hurt me? Yeah. And then so it becomes real there, where the pastor's doing, but now it's taking on us to like model it. Like we talked about last time, like, hey, let me see who we can mentor, who I can help, who I can be in a small group with.
How does the church do that, though? How do we?
You gotta provide. One thing I've learned that a mentor was telling me. Was as a leader or pastor, you have whatever you promote, you got to be doing too. So you can't be up there being like everyone should be in a life group and you're not in one. Right. So that does, first of all. But secondly, I think it has to be at the forefront of who you are, right? So as a church, you talk about vision and stuff. Some churches have covenants. When you come into the church, you got to sign a contract to say, I am going to be a part of a life group and leading one out. Okay. And so, or if you want to be in leadership position, like that's part of the contract, right? As opposed, also with upholding what we believe and standards of this. But this is a core. It has to be a core of what the church leadership believes. This direction we want to go in, and everything we do. So then, what happens is you change. I'm thinking as a pastor, right? You have to change everything you do as a church to allow space for life groups to happen, right? You can't be so busy with extra stuff. There's a book called Simple Church that talks about breaking down the church into what it, what should church look like according to your context, right? And I think that takes, that's from the leadership and from the board and from the church itself to be like, we value this and we think, and we're going to make space for it. So it means we're not going to have all the events all the time. We're giving space, and that's something that, Sabbath afternoons we wouldn't always have AYs because we're like, hey, if someone's at someone's house, like we're at OG's house, right? We want to be able, you can stay there all Sabbath.
Right.
But no, I got to go back to church at 4 or 5, which is good, right? Because you got to balance that, Easter plays, music, different stuff that you're doing, programs for that. But you want to provide opportunities for that to just organically happen. And it happens, right? When we hang out, you're there, and it's like, oh, it's 8 p.m., 9 p.m.
Right. But imagine, not everyone's super outgoing in that sense, but imagine like a church where you came in, and the pastor, whoever, gives a brief message, 20 minutes or whatever it is, and then you break off into groups. And then you have that new person that's like, you know what, I don't know anything about what you guys are talking about. So, tell me about your faith and what you believe. And all of a sudden, now you've engaged that guest that had no idea what you were talking about. And all of a sudden, you feel like you're part of a group. And you're like, you know what, I'm going to come back next week. I like that. Because I liked how this went. And it's a different format of doing church. But bro, the growth that can happen in those moments, bro, you're not gonna get that from coming in, listening to a sermon, and walking out.
Right.
You're gonna develop friendships. From those friendships, you develop connections, and then all of a sudden they're telling their friends, "Hey, listen, man, come to this church."
Right.
You know, it isn't just sitting there and listening. We actually get to talk and engage and ask questions. And it's a way of building community.
Too,
you know, dude, I'm telling you, man, like
rather than like lecture, you're actually listening, breaking out, discussing, and teaching others how. You know, so it's like you're actually going, thank you.
These wings are on point too. But I mean,
tearing those things up.
I'm taking them prisoners. But no, I think I have a different vision for. You know what it is because I'm noticing so much growth in our Sabbath school class that it's like, wow, like why? Listen, I'm going to be honest with you right now. I'm going to be honest with you guys. There's times when I've left Sabbath school and the spirit is just fire. I go downstairs into the church. I sit in my seat and it's like, woo. And it just feels like, okay, like that was the high moment of the day. And then now we kind of sit and we sing some songs and we listen to a sermon and we go home. Yeah. Like I feel like I'm hitting the top of the mountain in Sabbath school. And I feel like that mountain should be carried through the entire service, and everyone should be riding that wave of the Holy Spirit.
You know
what I'm saying? Like, but it's hard in that current format to do it, to have that experience because it is, you know, more of a one-way street.
Right.
So I don't know. I mean, I think if we did it that way, when you broke off into groups, you'd have half the church being like, "Wait, this is not what I want. I want to listen to a sermon. I want," you know what I mean? So you can't please everybody.
I feel like you can have a middle. You know, obviously not everyone's going to be happy, but you can find a middle ground where. I've seen churches that do that, right? That they'll do like maybe a 20-minute presentation or a sermon, and then from there, there's already the pastor or leader has made questions already. So it's like, hey, $5 questions break into your small group. Some evangelistic series are like that too, where you break out and you have table leaders, like facilitators, and you do that. And you say, hey, let's talk about this, and you're very intentional about that. I think that's a great approach. Obviously, it's breaking the culture of what the church is used to. But that's getting me thinking, man. I think that's good.
Here's the thing, though. I think. Is breaking the culture of what church has been necessarily a bad thing.
Exactly.
I saw something this morning. It was a statistic. It was like one of these like a circle graph. I had like Christianity, Buddhism, Hinduism, Islam. Non-religious, a whole bunch of different things, and it was just, you know, as the years scroll, you see like the change in the circle graph, right? And Christianity was at the top. It was like 30 when it started. I think it was like 34, 35%, somewhere around there, and everything else kind of fell underneath. And when that graph started, I can't remember what year it started, but 1970 or something. I don't remember, but non-religious was closer to the bottom.
Yeah.
But as the years progressed and the circle graph started to kind of change, non-religious moved up and ended up being the third largest religious group, if you will. It's like they call them nuns or nuns.
Yeah, the rise of the nuns.
Yeah, and so if you're trying to, and Christianity just kept declining.
Yeah.
If you're trying to attract people to Christianity, you're not going to do it the way
the current format is not working.
It's not working.
I mean, if you look at people that are even just church attendance in all denominations is way down. You look at the youth, you look at that demographic, let's say maybe 17 to 35.
Churches are really old.
It's way down. So the current format, it might be working for some people that are like, let's not change anything. But if you look at it with a bird's eye view, it's not sustainable.
No.
You know what I mean? This is not sustainable. The current format of church, of coming in, sitting in the pew, singing some songs, hearing a sermon, going home. People are just not about that right now. I mean, there's people that are, but I'm thinking like, you know, long term, it's just not working.
I'm gonna say something that might get me canceled.
Listen, you can't get canceled, bro. We're not getting paid. How can you cancel someone who's doing something for free?
That's true. I think by and large, and again, I'm not speaking as a, you know.
Your opinions are your own. The opinions on this episode, on this podcast, are our own. They don't reflect
anybody else.
It's like your plate. It's just you.
It's just me. I feel like the people that are very comfortable with the way things are the people that are closer to death than to birth.
Sure.
And if that's the case, then the institution that they are running or leading is going to die along with them. And that would come sooner rather than later.
So then we have to just wait it out?
There was
You know what I mean? Like, we just wait it out?
But the problem is, if you wait it out, those younger generations
you've lost a lot of people.
They're not coming back.
Excuse me.
I had a professor that said every church is like 2 or 3 funerals away from revival.
I get true.
But
Drink some water on that one. Drink some water on that one.
but no, I think it's you look at like Jesus' approach, and when he came, he didn't neglect going to church, his church, right, the synagogue, whatever. He went straight there and did what he could, and obviously spoke in parables too, and said, I can't give you everything because you got to really start with something and then go. So I think that's the call for many, that we try to leave right away. But it's like, no, let's stay, try to change as much as possible. But the people have to be willing to see. Because I feel like there's a lot of people that are comfortable. Like, I don't care what expense or what the return on investment will be in 5 to 10 years. As long as it looks like when I'm comfortable, I'm
Done good.
Some people might not even, maybe they're just so hard-headed, they don't see it, right? So you can be like, hey, if we don't change stuff, but they see it as like, neglecting who we are,
or changing and compromising,
looking like the world, and so. But yeah, I think it's a hard line. So it's like, okay, how much buy-in, and at what point do you say, all right, and as a leader, obviously we can kind of be like, well, we're going in this direction anyways, but hopefully you understand why.
But here's the thing, right? You're not going to win. You're not going to attract a 14-year-old kid with music that was written in 1852. It's not gonna happen. It's just not happening, right? And that doesn't mean that you have to do away with those things entirely, but you have to understand that might have worked 50, 60 years ago. It's not going to work today. But then the approach has to be different.
It falls back to the first question that I asked you. What is the point of the church? The point of the church is to reach people for Christ.
Yes, and if you're trying to reach people, you have to reach them with things that will attract them.
Yeah, like the gospel is so attractive. Like we talked about last episode, when it's presented in the right way, you can't help but want to be a part of it, want to hear it, want to be changed by it.
You enjoy sports.
I love sports.
What's your favorite sport?
Football.
Football is your favorite sport. If I wanted to invite you to a football party, a Super Bowl watch party, I wouldn't send you an invitation that all it was talking about was, hey, let's go to the movies. Because you'd be like, no, I'm watching the Super Bowl. I'm not interested in movies. You wouldn't even read through all of the information.
No, that's not what I'm interested in.
A Super Bowl.
Or show up to the Super Bowl party and it's like, we're only going to watch 10 minutes of the game.
And then we'll just play some Monopoly.
Yeah, we have Monopoly.
It's game night.
I'll come on later.
I'm not interested. I
came for the game.
Came for the game. Yeah. So if I'm trying to get you to my Super Bowl party, understanding that football is your favorite sport, I'm going to gear the invitation, I'm going to gear everything at my party to your interest.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean that I'm going to change my principles. If my principle is that I only wear black in my house and I don't wear green, I'm not going to start wearing green just to convince you to show up. I'm going to continue to wear black, but I'm going to make sure that my invitation has got footballs all over it, and it's got a picture of Patrick Mahomes and Brock Purdy on it, and you're going to look and say, oh, okay, this is interesting to me. This is something that I want to check out a little bit more.
Because the church right now has turned into a place where we go to feel comfortable and get what we want out of it. And it's not the direction of the focus is not where it needs to be. I mean, like we talked about it last time. You're in a position that you can actually act on this. You're a pastor. You know what I'm saying? I mean, we're members of a church.
But you can still. I mean, obviously, the idea of our church, our denomination, is that the people, kind of how our politics should work, right? The people are the voice and the direction that So that's why I always, encourage everyone, like, hey, if the more you can show up to, whether it be church meetings and stuff like that, that's an appeal to everyone, right? That's young, to make your voice be heard. Because what happens is a lot of times, like, well, they're not going to change, so I'm not even going to go. And if you don't go, then they're making all these decisions because the only people that are there that show up to these meetings
you're 100% right.
are people that want it this way.
Because I skip a lot of those meetings.
Right. So it's like
I'm just being real because I'm like, whatever.
You experienced it, right?
Yeah, I'm like, I ain't going to those meetings. But then again, if I went, I'd be able to be like, hold on a second. Correct. I'm not about that, and this is why. Right. And we're off track. Our mission should be
as a pastor too, because you're obviously you're not canvassing, but you get it, right? And so you have different leaders are different. You know me and kind of how I am, but you're like, all right, we're going to go in this direction, but you also don't want to seem like a dictator. You want to be able to be transparent enough, and you want to have buy-in, because what happens in our denomination, because we move so often, I can come in with my vision, but in 4 years when I leave, it's like, well, that was Sebastian's plan. What's next, right? So it's like, how do I make this, if I know it's biblical, right? The mission, the command, what we can say, Matthew 28, go to all nations, baptize, teach, and make disciples. Like, it's very clear. How do I make this a part of our DNA as a core, as a church, so that everything we do does that? And so one of the things that I've worked a lot with a coach and in the conference and what is like doing your mission, your vision, and your values. Which your mission is that non-negotiable, Matthew 28, going, you have to tell people about Jesus. Values is like who you are. What do you value as a church? You have aspirational values. That church is like, oh, we're the most welcoming church, but it's like you're aspiring to be. But if you ask a random person, so it's knowing who you are, but also the vision is like, how do we accomplish the mission? Right? And if those things aren't clear, then we're all over the place, right? Every department's doing their own thing. Every person's doing their own thing. But and that's what I'm kind of going to start working with my church here. I've just been kind of observing a lot. They're doing a lot of great things, but it's always remembering. I'm telling all my leaders, like, everything we do has to fall in line with who we are, what we've been called to do, right? Mission, who we are, and what we're doing about it, right, to accomplish the mission. So how we run our meetings, how we lead our ministries, how we, solve confrontation, what we preach and teach from the front, right? Everything has to, and if there's not a consistent theme, and so that's what I've been telling, it's just, growing up, you're like, anytime, but anything you want to get across, right, you have to repeat, and it's obnoxious and stuff, but it's like, it catches on, right? So it's like the ads, right? You just gotta keep doing that. And I think that's, as a leader, that's a responsibility that we have to make sure that, hey, and so it's figuring out what is our calling, right, for the Palm Coast Church to reach Palm Coast. How are we called to do that? For where I'm at. How is our church reaching the community there? It can't be in the ways that we learn from Mexico or Jamaica or Dominican Republic, but it has to be.
And that's the thing too. Like, it's even for you, for instance, we're working in Palm Coast. It's not going to work in Jacksonville,
right?
Because the people in Palm Coast are different than the people in Jacksonville. The needs are different,
right?
The setup is different. You have to be.
I can't just go up there and be like, we're going to do the same exact thing we were doing over there.
You have to be intentional and cater to the community that you're in, and that's the key piece. You have to be an integral part of the community. You can't just show up and say, all right, we're going to do our own thing within these four walls, and then we're going to bounce.
I think there's been a shift too, like in just human psychology over the years, where, like, back in the day, people would go to church almost maybe out of a sense of duty or a sense of guilt, or I need to go because we're 10th generation whatever. And now people are like, listen, like, I don't care. I don't even feel guilty. I don't feel guilty for not going either. Like, I'm not going. Like, we used to go. We don't go anymore. We're done. We're done with that. So I think people now, like, there has to be a reason. What is what am I getting from this? Like, why am I going? Why am I participating? And if there's no value in it, then I got other things I could be doing. And that guilt, that little, you should, it's gone. And I don't think you should be guilted in the church. I'm just saying, like, back in the day, people would probably go because they felt like, we go. And now it's like, no, I'm not going to go.
It's understanding
why?
Of, like, the generations, too. Like, starting from your generation and down, like, our parents were like, I'm going to be in this job forever. Right? They were very committed to an institution where we grew up in a time where we saw those institutions in our parents' age and how they were treated. And we're like, I got to see that the institution is actually there for me. So think about the jobs, right? If my job or the workplace I'm in isn't treating me, my well-being, my mental health, my family, I'm out. Whereas other times, like, I'll sacrifice everything.
Well, die in this job.
At this job because it's paying me. It's like, no, here it's like, I would rather take a less paying job to have a better, whatever it is.
Work-life balance, or whatever it is. Yeah.
And so I think it's understanding generations too. And so I think people are asking the question, rather than like, I have to go to church, I'm going to be there. It's like, first of all, I've seen a lot of church hurt. So first of all, I'm already ticked off by it.
Right.
And secondly, what good are you doing? What are you about? And what am I benefiting from it? Or how, and a lot of us want to be part of a good cause too. And when I see that, and that's what happened a lot during COVID, and whether it be Black Lives Matter, any protests that was happening, anytime here, you have a lot of friends that the church doesn't put any statements. That's hard to be putting statements all the time.
Sure.
But at least communicating, if we see atrocities happening across the world or whatever, speaking up at that and not just pretending that everything's normal, right, and doing that. So I think people are looking, they're like, okay, what's our cause? Like, how are we making the world a better place? And it's a lot of it I think, in especially in the Adventist world, is like we're just getting ready for heaven, and if the world around us is burning right now,
like that's so crazy. Like that's
like I'm sorry, I don't got time for. I gotta work, and that goes back to I think the view of God. I'm still working out my salvation. I don't got time to be working about a Cheryl. You can't pay his bills. I'm sorry, but I gotta make sure I go to church because I can't help you because you know what I'm saying. We're just so worked up on trying to be right with God, and we haven't. I think it goes back to last episode. We haven't experienced this true freedom and peace that God gives. That now I'm good with God, man. I have confidence that I'm gonna be there, and I'm not banking on my own strength or my own willpower, but it's Spirit's working in me. So, but now I have time to, hey, I'm gonna pour into your life, and I'm gonna walk with you and journey with you.
Well, then I think that the more you become aware of that news, right, of the goodness of it, the more you have to share it. It actually puts a burden on your heart to actually want. Thank you very much. To actually want to share that,
right?
You know what I'm saying? Because now you're like, this is so good. How can I not share this? Right. And then it actually creates like a burden for like someone who may not know. You're like, you got to hear this, man. You got to hear this. This is so good. Right. And then it becomes contagious. Right. But I don't know. I think the actionable thing, I would say, for, like even right now, listening to the podcast, like the actionable thing is find yourself a small group, man. If you don't have one, start one. Find some people. It could be 3, 4, 5 people, 6 people, 8 people, and study the Bible together, man.
There's so much. It's funny. There's so much material online to use. Like if you don't know what to use, there's so much material online.
I never saw the value of it until I was in one. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Like we're going through Romans right now. Bro, I'm telling you, man. Like start in Romans.
You're doing verse by verse. You're just coming in and like.
So what we do is we say next week is Romans 9, and we come in, we read it together, and then like I put a lot of time during the week to kind of get deeper in it, and we just go verse by verse, and just try to pull as much meat off that bone. Yeah. And then people are like, wow, I never saw it like that. And then someone else might have something to say, and then they say something. You're like, you know what? What about this? And all of a sudden, the room there's a lot of the Holy Spirit's there doing its thing. And it's a beautiful thing, man. But like, you don't get that experience by yourself. Now, don't get me wrong. Individual study is great. Yeah. But get yourself in a small group, man, and like start reading. Start with the Pauline books, man. Get into that Galatians and that.
Or start with the Gospels. Easy.
Well, if you're starting from scratch, but I'm telling you, if you're looking for the Romans, for example, is life-changing theology, bro, because it changes how you see yourself. And then it puts you at peace with God because you're righteous because He's made you righteous, bro. And then you live. It's like you live free. Not that you're free to do whatever, but you just live with that. You're living from a place of having,
there's no burden,
than a place of without. Like I'm not clawing my way up this mountain.
That's good.
He's placing me on top of the mountain because of His Son. Right. And then now I get to live in that mountain. And then everything else comes from that freedom. Right. You know what I'm saying?
That's good.
It's a beautiful thing, but that's the kind of stuff that Paul, man, he just goes, you got to get into Romans, bro. If you're not doing a Romans Bible study,
what are you doing?
We're in Romans 9 tomorrow. Next week.
I'm saying, if you're not doing it, then what are you doing?
Then what are you doing, man? Get into that. But no, I think getting into a small group is actionable. You can, if you're in a church, even if you're not in a church, man, find some friends that are interested in studying more about God.
Create a
group. Once a week, say we're going to meet for an hour, and we're going to read it together, and get yourself a Bible commentary as well. Because I think for me, that's been one of those things where, like, when you get into a verse, you're like, I don't understand. The commentary like it explains it, and you're like, oh, okay, that makes sense. But we gotta create communities, man, that we study together and get to hear each other's ideas and ask questions and talk. Man, that's where the growth's happening, man. That's where it's at.
And a good way to kind of build that community is kind of like what we mentioned earlier, is meeting people's needs. And so, if you realize, for instance, like here locally at our church, there's a need with the young adults with like the high school age. They want to play basketball. They just want a space where they can get together and hoop. So the church opens up the gym every week. Every Thursday. Just come out and hoop. Come out and have a good time.
Right. It doesn't have to be like we're doing just community. We're gonna go out for some wings. We're gonna go get some fries, whatever.
And what's funny is that's been going on for. I've been in this area for close to 10 years now, and it's been going on since at least I got here. And there have been countless people that have come that have had no real interest in. They would
never come to church
otherwise. But then you're like, oh, we're doing such and such, or we're doing such and such. Just come through. Oh, okay, I'll come through. And they bring their friends.
And because you built relationships.
You built a relationship.
You know what I'm saying?
Now
they trust you.
Right.
You know what I mean?
It's very hard. I know we talked about this in the previous season, the previous episode, about just going to somebody that you have no connection with whatsoever. You've never spoken a word to them. And saying, hey, do this. No, who are you?
No one wants to hear that, man.
I'm not trying to hear that. But
or else.
Right, but if I built a relationship with you, if we've hung out week after week after week, doing something that we have a shared interest, then I say, hey, this is something that I'm doing, or something that I want to invite you to. They're more willing to hear you out and say, oh, okay, I'll check it out.
Yeah, I'll check it out, or not. I'm not interested, but thanks for telling me anyway.
It gives you the opportunity to at least have that conversation. We need to be much more, and I say we, not just the three of us, but as a church, we need to be much more intentional about meeting people's needs and just building good relationships with people.
Yeah.
Just being people.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Dad, could I ask you a question?
Yeah.
I mean, we don't have to put your face on it, but we're just doing a podcast on the view of like the world on Christians. So I don't know what's your perspective of the world's view of the Christian church? It doesn't have to be,
If someone says, describe a Christian in 3 words, or what's the first thing that pops into your mind?
That's good.
Normally charity work.
Charity work? Okay.
Normally, if someone's like, oh, I'm a Christian, I'm like, so you probably do a lot of like volunteering, charity work.
Okay.
Because a lot of Christians do like the cool mission trips.
Yeah.
They do a lot of giving back. They do a lot of food banks, things like that. So that's really like the first thing I think of.
You can be negative. I mean, you can be honest.
It's whatever pops into your mind.
Yeah.
I was like, the only negative thing I can think about that a lot of people think about Christians is they tend to think they're judgy.
Yeah.
Like they do a lot of giving back, but like they're very harsh, and like if you're not with their beliefs, like they tend to like look down on you.
You're either with us or you're against us, kind of a mentality.
I feel like that's how a lot of people see you. But I mean, I'm so easygoing. I'm one of those people where like
you're like, it's all good.
Like
whatever you
your
are.
beliefs are your beliefs.
Sure.
Like it's your life. You're gonna live it how you want. Either you have beliefs, you don't have beliefs. If you don't, that's you.
Right.
No one's gonna convince you otherwise. Like you're either gonna have a life moment where you're like, oh my gosh, this had to come from a higher power, or you're not. That's fine.
Yeah.
But
cool.
I'm one of those like, you want to wear a skirt, wear a skirt. You want to wear pants, wear pants. Like
Yeah.
As long as you're comfortable and you're happy with the way that you're living your life, that's what matters.
Yeah. Cool.
Thanks, Dad. Appreciate it. Thank you
very much.
There you go.
Those wings are on point too, man.
Huh?
Those wings, I gotta come here more often.
Yeah, those wings are fire.
But it's cool. Like, I mean, like, I think it almost seems like the church should take even more inventory as to how they're perceived in your local community, right?
I think, like doing what you just did, I think it'd be very cool as a church, just every couple weeks, just go out and just say, hey, like, we're the local, Palm Coast church, or we're the local Tampa church, or the local Boston, whatever. Like, what is your, like, what can we do for you? What is your opinion of us? Like, where are we falling short for this, for our community?
You notice how she said judgy, right?
Yeah.
Now, why are Christians known for, because I've heard this before, for being judgy, right? Because in your mind, as the Christian that's judgy, right, you're seeing yourself in a certain place, and then you're seeing someone else not in the same place, and then your place is better than theirs, right?
It's funny because that is exactly what Sebastian was talking about yesterday. Your picture, your view. Yeah. If you have a certain view, you're gonna say, "Oh man, I've got to work."
What does it sound like? The publican. Thankfully, I'm not like.
Man, I'm so glad.
You know what I'm saying? He's praying, and the actual tax collector's like,
pounding his chest, have mercy, right?
That's crazy. Yeah.
And that's the thing. Like that perception. I'm sure
it's that perception of God.
Like
it's either like, look at me, I'm so much. Look at my works and what I've done. I'm so much. I'm not. Look at Omar, man. I'm so much better. Or I gotta earn it. Yeah. And I don't have time to be about.
I may have messed up, but at least I'm not. I'm not.
Which is
the key to victory. If you read Romans, I'm on a Romans tip. The first 3 chapters, it's literally Paul saying, "You're nothing of your own. You're nothing of your own. You're nothing of your own." Breaks you down to that level where you're in no position to judge because you're on the bottom. Yeah. And then when you realize my cup is completely empty, then it's like, okay, then by faith and grace, accept His righteousness to then fill your cup. And then you're in no position to judge when your cup's empty. When you're coming from an empty place, You're just like grace.
Yeah.
Like, I don't deserve anything.
Freely you take in your life.
I don't deserve anything, right?
Well, who am I? Yeah.
You know, and then you're righteous because you believe, and then you don't judge.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Because you realize, listen, I'm as filthy as the filthiest. I'm just saved by grace.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? And that's the mentality that you need to have as a Christian, and that's the freedom.
It's freedom.
Yeah.
That's the freedom.
I remember my first day of my first job in my life, and I walked in and I was like, man, I know nothing. Like, I don't know I don't know what I need to do. I don't know what's going on. Like, I can't come in here and act like I own the place because I ain't got a clue.
And imagine you judging somebody and you're like, I don't have a clue.
Right.
You can't judge. You can't judge.
You had the job.
But I had the job. But even in my mind, I was like, I gotta make sure that I follow every instruction because I don't know what I'm doing. So I'm just you tell me what to do and I'm just gonna do it. Like, I'm not gonna ask any questions because I need to keep this job. I want to get paid.
Right. I want to get paid.
We gotta be the same as Christians. Like, we did nothing to earn the job. We did
Nothing, bro.
We have no resume. We have no qualifications. We should not have the job.
Yeah.
God said, you know what? I'm gonna give you the job. I don't even need a worker, but I'm gonna give you the job.
Yeah.
You got the job. You got the job.
Just
follow my instructions. Just
do what I do.
Just do what I do.
Yeah.
And you're good.
Yeah.
And we do that for a little bit, and then we say, oh, I got this. I figured it out. I don't need you anymore.
Yeah.
And somebody else walks in. Oh no, he don't know what he's doing. He's a mess.
Did God said, nah, but I like it this way. So you gotta make sure your desk is in that word.
Yeah.
We are nothing.
You have to come.
We have nothing.
When you
We are
realize
nothing.
where you are and how filthy you are, and the only fact that you are good is because of the impulses of God. Even prayer, bro. Even the Holy Spirit prays for you.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
All right, Romans. Everything Romans over here, bro. Get him out of
The
Romans.
thing is, you do nothing.
Yeah.
You do nothing.
Yeah.
In and of yourself, you are not good.
Yeah.
You are not good.
Your desire
You're
to
not
do good. Everything's from God.
So when you have that ingrained in your life, then you're not the kind of person who judges somebody else because they live differently than you.
And I think it changes how you look at your church too. It's not your church. It's not
That's
my.
it,
As a
that's
pastor,
it,
it's not
bro.
my church. So I come in and I'm like you said, I gotta, go around the community and what are the greatest needs? How can we, what can we do, right? What's the perception of our church? Are we even known in our community?
Yeah.
And then I think it's every so often it's like we gotta regroup and say, all right, let's go back to the table.
Yeah.
I know we did maybe our mission statement 10 years ago, but is it still relevant, right? And what is that? Sometimes it's so vague. It's like, let's get reach, teach, serve. That's good, but it's big. It's powerful. But what does that mean? Right. So the more specific you can get, the easier. And that's where you have churches that really take off because they're like, oh, we're a church for young adults from 18 to 25. That's everything's catered to that, right? So it's like
there's nothing wrong with that.
Right.
There's nothing wrong with that.
It's clear who their target audience is.
Yeah.
So.
If you say, look, we are here because we want to reach the like that middle age, like young,
Like the one
young
lady told me,
families.
unchurched, 20 to 30 unchurched. That's our mission.
Perfect. You're focused, and everyone who is serving and working in that church knows exactly who they're targeting, exactly how to package and message things, and they have an understanding. When it's broad, you're just like, all right, do I go over here? Do I go over here?
We need to start speaking up then, because like you said, like the takeaway for me is I don't usually go to these kind of meetings. You got to show up. I think people have to speak up. I think leaving or doing is not an option. You need to speak up. And if you don't say anything, then things will stay the way they are. Because the people that, like you said, the people that have their grips on how things are going are the ones that are at every single meeting from the moment it starts to the moment it ends. And there's no opposition.
And the view always is, well, one, hey, they probably don't agree with us, but they're not here.
Which is true. It's true.
Like, but then the perception they get is that they don't care enough of the church like I do, because I'm here.
I care.
Whereas if you shut up and I see it differently, oh, you're here. Okay.
Okay,
so
let's hear you out.
Let's hear you out.
Let's hear you out.
So that's why I think that's an appeal to us.
What are those meetings called? Because I've heard they have like those budget meetings.
It's a business meeting. Usually,
it's a business meeting.
At the way our church structure is that the highest power, or authority, or the highest voting power is at that base level of business. So the whole church in session, right? So anytime there's some at Palm Coast, it happens Saturday nights. A lot of times there's decisions made during church service because that's when you have a lot of people,
everyone's there. Yeah,
raise your hand. So that's a business decision. And obviously you have your boards and committees and all that. But it's those business meetings you want to show up because it's like for whatever reasons, right? Obviously, pastors and leaders set the agenda for what's going on, whether it be we're showing the budget, we're talking about this, and that. But it's if it's big enough, it's I don't know. That's where you want to. Whenever there's opportunities of coming together to dialogue, you want to show up and be there. Even if it requires more time. But if you're able to be in some committees or whatever it is, hey, worship committee or this. Obviously, there's a lot of moving and jostling around, but that's where you get to put a voice.
Yeah.
Where maybe there hasn't been a lot of voice.
I never go to those meetings.
I think
just because, man. Like I'm just like, nah.
Yeah, I hear you.
I think it's very important.
I wouldn't go if I didn't have to. No, but it's important. It's important.
It's very important. I think it's important. Number one, for everyone to attend. I think it's very, very important though for like our youth and young adults to attend those things, those meetings.
100%.
That would be
because those.
And if you feel involved, my voice is being heard. I don't like how we do this.
I mean, I know Cheryl Monique have showed up, and when I was here, I was like, yo, I'll tell Brandon, I was like, y'all got to show up, and not just that, but talk to your grandparents and parents who might be, if they're not the people that are in that, they can speak to people in their age, and you can communicate the vision. Right? We were talking about that on Friday night with Project Beacon, right? It was like, you have to, and I'm seeing as a leader, right? As leaders and as a pastor, if I have leaders that come to me with clear visions of what that aligns with who we are, let's do it. How can I support you? Right? If I'm a good leader, right? If I'm micromanaging and I'm like, I don't like that. I'm scared of your potential. No, but a good leader that really isn't trying to micromanage. You come with hey man, I think I'm seeing the value of life groups. Pastor Marcus, I want to somehow we have to keep. How can we infect this church with life groups? Right? I think this should be a core thing this next year. Evangelism, life group. Like, how do we? I think this is essential to who we are, right? And so if you come as a leader, showing up to the meetings, but also saying, hey, I'm coming to the leaders, to the pastor, especially to the pastor, and be like, hey, I'm seeing this, and I think I have a way to go about it.
Help this,
A pastor will always, like I said, if they're not macromanaging, they'll appreciate you're coming up with solutions. You're not coming to just complain and be like, we need more youth here. No, we see that. This is how we want to tackle it. Do we have your support? Can we count on your, And I think that helps a lot. So then you begin to kind of shift that in that direction. And I'll see from a lot of older people too, once you see that you're very active and stuff, they're like, oh, you're doing things differently, but at least you showed up, right?
That's true. Showing up is a big deal.
But obviously it's commitment and time. It's easier, it feels like, to leave though, because it's like, or start something new. But the tricky part with that for me is, if you don't have a clear vision and you leave and you go to start something new, you're going to fall into the same trap later on at some point, right?
I think the only time you don't have that consider mission, even leaving and starting something new is if all your best efforts, if you've put in the time and all your best efforts have gone rejected, then you can look at it. But until you've made your voice known and your voice heard, that's the first place to see, so you see if you can affect change. Because I believe something has to change.
Yeah,
the status quo is not doing it, man. I've been here my whole life, bro.
And the statistics bear that out. That something has to change because doing things the same way has not led to growth. It's led to a decline.
Insanity.
It's insanity. And if we want the church to grow, we need to.
We hear you, sir.
We apologize. This is the
we're out in the world, man. We got to hear hooligans.
But if you want the church to grow, you gotta target the growing demographic. I'll wait.
There you go.
All right, we're good. If we want the church to grow, we have to target growing demographics. We gotta target the whatever that may be in your community. If your community is a community, where it's a large population of 55 plus, that's what you gotta target.
Right.
That's what you gotta target. You have to you have to structure things in a way that will meet the needs of that age group. If you're in an area where it's a bunch of college kids that 18 to 24, 25, that's who you got to target. If you're in a space where it's like the suburbs and like middle America, if you got families with elementary school to middle school kids, whatever, that's who you got to target, et cetera, et cetera. You have to be very, very specific on who you're reaching out to. Make sure that you're meeting their needs. Make sure that you're addressing the things that concern them, and that's the only way you're going to grow. You can't just, like you said, you can't just take this blanket and throw this blanket out there and hope that it covers everybody. You gotta be specific and tailor it to the people that you are.
And you might have to
that you're
break
living
up
with.
groups in the
Absolutely.
church to do that kind of stuff. I
Absolutely.
mean, you can't, the one way of doing things can't cover everybody. But you might, hey, listen, we're going to focus on this demographic. We're going to focus on this.
And you gotta get that buy-in from the church, right? Which is again instilling like over and over, like we're not here to please anybody that's in the church and been baptized here. When you get baptized, yeah, you're learning how to walk and crawl, but you're out there working for God already. And so this is our target audience. You're in our church. This is our mission. Our mission is to reach them. So our services may not be what you're used to, but it's not about that, right?
Right.
We talked about that. I think last time, right? Hey, you can get to heaven, like, actually in our practice, right? The hymns and the song are like, oh man, I'm tired of worshiping this hymn. And the angels are like, well, come on, man, we wrote this. Your music on earth was trash.
It's sweet.
Like, nah, I'm not.
Not trash, but yeah, that's good.
No, good stuff.
Great talk, man. Great talk.
We're talking about too, off the air, real quick.
Yeah.
At some point, maybe adding another segment in our show.
Yeah.
Where we cover a couple verses of scripture
That'd be
and
good.
just kind of dig a little deeper into it, or even just something that we talk about beforehand, like we read it and then we discuss it on air on the show, and then just kind of like ping pong off each other, and then we can get some participation from the people that are listening.
I like
and
that.
I think that'll be, because I'm telling you, man, like Bible study is
there's nothing like it.
It's the root,
Yeah.
man.
We should do that. I wonder if you want to pick. I know it's last minute on the spot, but pick a book and chapter. Because we can substitute that last
the talking point.
for that, and just spend some time there, just kind of
Like just 10 minutes, just kind of dig into it.
I mean,
Where do you want to start? No.
Let's do. James is a very practical.
James?
Book. I think it's 5 chapters. James is five chapters.
So you want to do like 10 minutes on James 1 and 2 next episode?
Sure.
Let's do that. James
All right.
1 and 2. So if you're listening, if you're watching, make sure you listen to James 1 and 2 and check it out. And listen, read, study it, and then next time we'll
discuss it a little bit.
Just share a
and
little
we
bit.
could do it like little. I think that'll be fun, man.
Teaser.
Yeah,
I like that.
That'll be fun.
That's good.
That'll be fun.
Awesome. Well, if you're in the Palm Coast area, or I think I don't know,
Daytona.
check out Hooligans.
This place is legit, man. These wings are on point.
Veggie stuff and non-veggie stuff. So good stuff. Good talk, guys. Appreciate y'all. And again, if you're watching or listening, we appreciate your tuning in. And also, if you have any questions, any feedback,
positive, negative, whatever you have.
I want to shout out Lacey, who's actually one of the moms that has brought her kids to basketball in Palm Coast. I think I shared you guys some of the conversation we had. So Lacey, if you're watching or listening, we appreciate you checking in and keep growing.
And if you have suggestions, man, put them in the comments. Things that you may be experiencing in your local church, or things that you might think that we're not talking about enough.
Right.
Put it in there, man. We'll talk about everything. Let's go.
Appreciate it, guys. We'll see you all. This is episode 2
of season 3.
Season 3.
3.2.
Yeah, 3.2.
3.2. So we'll see you all and talk to y'all later.
Peace.